America sits on a knife's edge. As Trump and the court play a game of chicken, we appear to be headed straight for a constitutional crisis. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Last week, the Supreme Court maintained a temporary block on the deportation of suspected Venezuelan gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. Okay, because there's a lot of moving parts here, let's quickly break down what happened. First, the Trump administration tried to deport a group of Venezuelans under the Alien Enemies Act. That's the law that allows the president, during a declared war, invasion, or foreign hostile action, to remove foreign nationals with limited due process, that is, the ability to defend themselves in court. This is possible because Venezuelan gangs, like Tren de Aragua, are classified as foreign terrorist organizations. Upon learning of their impending removal, those Venezuelans filed an appeal with a district court, challenging the use of the Alien Enemies Act and the untimely removal without judicial review. The district court went 14 hours without a ruling. So instead, the Venezuelans filed with the appeals court, but the appeals court denied it because the district court hadn't yet made a decision. So then, they filed an appeal with the Supreme Court. The justices did not rule on whether or not Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act was legal, but did say the Venezuelans had a serious argument that they weren't given enough notice. So they punted it back down to the appeals court, telling them to decide exactly how much time would actually be needed. Obviously, Trump was not happy. He lamented on Truth Social that while millions of illegals could freely enter the United States under Biden, taking them out again would require a long and very expensive legal process. And he has a point. While ideally everyone should have their day in court, the U.S. just doesn't have the capacity to process millions and millions of individual cases. And we don't even know how many people are in the U.S. illegally. In January of 2022, the Department of Homeland Security estimated there were 11 million illegals in the United States. But besides those numbers being 3 years out of date, it also doesn't include people who crossed the border but were never caught. For this year, Border Czar Tom Homan estimated there were over 20 million illegals. That's an absolutely insane number of cases, especially when you add the millions of cases still in the court's backlogs and all the new cases being added every year. With the U.S. only having around 700 immigration judges, all this could take years to decide. So, let's do the math. Let's see, 20 million add in pending cases, 1.8 million new cases for 2024, multiplied by the average number of years for each case, divide by the number of judges, and in the approximate time it'll take to process every case, we will all be dead. So there you go. Unless the U.S. were to somehow increase its number of immigration judges by a couple orders of magnitude, we shouldn't expect to see these cases resolved in our lifetimes, let alone Trump's remaining time in office. Unless, of course, he's a powerful necromancer with a vast underground lair where he's growing immigration judge homunculi in jars. In short, with due process as it's currently practiced, the government's ability to send people out will never be able to keep pace with the number of people coming in. And according to former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, the situation is about to go critical.
Before the Supreme Court leaves for their summer break, there's going to be a constitutional crisis. If the courts keep trying to slow him down, you're going to see suspension of the writ of habeas corpus, just like President Lincoln did in the Civil War.
Boy, that escalated quickly. So for those of us who slept through Latin and history and social studies, habeas corpus means the right for anyone held in custody, citizen or not, to go in front of a judge and determine whether or not their detention is legal. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus for suspected Confederate sympathizers in and around Maryland. Those people were arrested by the military without charge and denied a speedy trial. That same year, the Chief Justice, acting as a circuit judge, ruled that what Lincoln had done was illegal and that only Congress could suspend habeas corpus. So, what did Lincoln do? Well, he ignored the ruling and even expanded the rule from a few strategic zones to a nationwide suspension. Tens of thousands were imprisoned. 2 years after Lincoln's first suspension, Congress passed the Habeas Corpus Suspension Act, retroactively legalizing what Lincoln had done. So it's all good, homie. But still, this remains one of Lincoln's most controversial actions during the war. So, will Trump do the same? Here's what White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller had to say.
The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not.
Sounds about right. Give us approval or we'll just do what we want anyway and you can all just deal with it. Boy, if people thought Trump was a dictator now, just wait till that happens. It would be a huge escalation. But will Trump actually do it? Or will the nothing ever happens gang claim another scalp? Well, it's not impossible. Trump has ignored courts before. In a previous episode, I went over Trump's decision to fly suspected foreign gang members to a super prison in El Salvador. A district judge ordered that the plane be turned around. The administration ignored the judge, claiming he lacked jurisdiction since the plane was already over international waters. So, you know, money plane legal theory. Which has me thinking, if Trump wants to raise government revenue and settle the national debt, he doesn't need tariffs or spending cuts. What he needs are a couple of 747s tricked out with blackjack tables and cockfights. Get Qatar on the line. But that wasn't the only time Trump ignored the courts. In another recent episode, we covered the controversy around Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a citizen of El Salvador who was deported under the Alien Enemies Act due to suspected ties with MS-13. Despite outcries from many in Congress and a Supreme Court ruling that he should be returned to the United States, the Trump administration has refused to take action. He remains in the prison to this day. So now we're just waiting to see who flinches first, Trump or the courts. If Trump backs down, then it's very likely that America's immigration mess will never get resolved. It's also equally likely that any policy he puts forward will continue to get bogged down in court and never see the light of day. He'd be a lame duck president. But if he ignores the courts, and if his cabinet remains loyal, that would be a sea change. And I don't mean just in terms of immigration. He'd be the most powerful president we've had in a century. And the powers of the legislative and judicial branches would wither. In this world, tweets or truths may as well carry the weight of laws. And you just know the ghost of Andrew Jackson is floating above him whispering, "Do it, Donald, do it. The judges made their decisions. Let's see them try and enforce it." But what do you think? Will Trump actually go through with it? Or are you all in on nothing ever happens? Place your bets now. And speaking of which, on my episode about who would be the next pope, I asked all of you to leave a comment for your potential pontiffs. And guess what? Literally none of you thought it would be Robert Prevost of Chicago. And here I thought you were all patriots. For shame. Oh well, in lieu of getting a shout out, why don't you all just head over to AmericaUncovered.tv where you can chat directly with me, Matt, and Shelley. Not to mention enjoy all the exclusive episodes we've made for you, our beloved subscribers. The link is below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you on the other side.